All right, so, and we got to mute everybody. And then we'll begin. Just need, okay, I think we're all set. All right, let me bring up the presentation and we will start. Get us into slide mode. Actually, I think the faces are in the right place. Let me see. I have to adjust. Hold on one sec. There we go. Okay. All right. So as you can see by the title, Israeli Innovations Q4 2022 update. We're actually going to do two more of these, Q1 2023 and Q2 2023. We're not going to do one in the summer. So this presentation is going to cover both updates on technologies and developments that we've presented in the past, and it's also going to cover a lot of new discoveries and innovations that have occurred within Israel. In particular, there's quite a few on cancer, which I think some of you will find interesting. So let's begin, and we usually start with our facts about Israel. So I thought we'd deal with some current stuff with our facts. So the shekel, the Israeli shekel, has appreciated against the dollar 8.9% over the last 10 years. Now, what's interesting about that is every single European currency has actually depreciated against the dollar. So Israel's the only currency in the what I'll call the modern economies that has actually appreciated against the dollar in that part of the world. So and along with that, Israel's 2023 gross domestic product is estimated, they're estimated to grow this year at 5.4%. Now that compares to the rest of the developed world, which is averaging a 2.4% growth. The United States is actually only expected to grow at 1.6%. Inflation in Israel is projected to be 4.5%. That's probably about half of what it is here in the US. And one of the reasons for this is Israel has a very diverse economy. Technology is the leading industry, that's information technology, and that is only 25% of their economy. Israel's population is 9.5 million, so just a very small population compared to the other countries. And as you can see from these numbers, they are doing amazing things. So we're going to talk about technologies that we've talked about in the past and what's happening. So PepsiCo is buying or has bought an Israeli drip irrigation company. So PepsiCo, which also owns Frito-Lay, owns a lot of farms, and they also contract with farmers, and they grow potatoes, they grow corn, they grow grapes in 60 different countries. And so what they did was they conducted a 2-year drip irrigation pilot with an Israeli company called NDrip. They did the pilot in India, Vietnam, and the US. And what they found was during this pilot, water needs were actually reduced by 50%, and fertilizer was also reduced by 50%. And of course, you've probably heard that this year, because of the war going on in Ukraine, there's projected to be fertilizer shortages. But even though they were both reduced by 50%, water and fertilizer, crop yields actually increased by 15 to 40%. So, like the Remington guy in the commercial, they said, okay, we're going to buy the company. And they did. Vanilla Vida, you might have recalled when we talked about it last, they were in the process of developing their product. Well, the product has been developed. And they're now selling natural vanilla. It's grown in greenhouses, which means that they're able to simulate perfect conditions for vanilla. And they're also able to accelerate the drying process. And by accelerating the drying process, the vanilla actually retains more of its vanilla flavor. And it's currently being used in a very busy Tel Aviv restaurant. The name of the restaurant is Brut. And the chef there, Yair Yoselfi, he actually calls it his special ingredient. He's now got customers specifically asking for the products that he's put this Vanilla Vita product in. And let's hear how they do it.
Everything related to vanilla beans,
We are here to help the world consume more natural vanilla. These days, we are starting to grow vanilla all over Israel to bring a solution for the two biggest pain points in the industry, so that now we will have high-quality product and a stable supply chain based on smart farming greenhouses.
The biggest challenge in vanilla industry today is the inefficient and the disrupt supply chain of vanilla bean and the lack of uniformity of the product quality. We are here to change it. We grow in smart farming, climate-controlled greenhouses.
In our R&D department, we are currently focused on three great missions. The first is to bring our yield to the maximum. The second is to control the blooming and generate more efficient and smoother operation. And the third is to solve the big challenge of hand pollination by using a mesh of technology.
We have our own innovative patent and all the regulatory certification needed, including FDA.
We can actually do smart processing, curing to the product, that's allowing us to produce the most vanilla product in the world. And in the end of the day, to tailor the product according to the market or to the client's needs. We hope to help the world to consume more natural vanilla.
Some of you might recall this organization, Sinsila Muslala. This is a joint project between both Israelis and Palestinians conducted in the eastern side of Jerusalem. And what this project does is it actually trains Palestinian women to become beekeepers and to build rooftop gardens. They hold classes for 15 women at a time, and then it's followed by 6 months of on-site supervision. And these small beehives produce about 100 pounds of honey a year. And of course, they also produce fruit, vegetables and other products because the bees have to pollinate these things. So far, they've trained 115 women. And they're planning to train about 200 in 2023. And so the project's been very successful, and it actually works quite well for Palestinian women because based on their culture, some of them aren't able to leave their homes very easily. So this way they don't have to do this gardening. Aura Air, I don't know if you remember Aura Air. Aura Air filters the air in your home, in schools, in businesses, and it's about the size of a smoke detector. It actually removes 99.9% of viruses, including COVID, which is why we talked about it in the last, in one of our other sessions. It includes a smart app on your phone that gives you details on the air quality, both in your home and outside your home. And right now, Aura Air is being installed in thousands of schools and buses throughout the US, including Florida. So, you know, if you have children or know people that have children, you might actually see an Aura Air unit there. Now, on the downside, when we talked about it last, I think it was selling for about $160 or $170. It's now selling for $699. So that was the early order discount. So here's a little entertaining video about how it works.
It's Tuesday evening. Our family of sapiens gathers at the modern campfire. It's a new era for the pack. For the first time in millions of years, clean air fills up the living space. The male parent enjoys every breath he takes as he makes his way to his prey. One must remember, even though we can now enjoy clean air while in nature, it wasn't always the case. Not so long ago, sapiens were constantly breathing polluted air, smoke from massive wildfires, and even dealt with all kinds of viruses, just like the COVID-19 one. Ring any bells? While everybody is working hard on finding fresh air outside, our pack relishes the clean air in the comfort of their own domestic habitat. How is that possible? They have the Aura Air, a groundbreaking product that creates better air, just like in nature. Purifies, cleanses, and disinfects your camp base from multiple bacteria and viruses, including the coronavirus, mold, and even bad odors. Thanks to its medical, science-based technologies, Aura Air disinfects 99.9% of all viruses. With the biopolar technology, multi-layered filters, and UVC LEDs, the millers know everyone in their pack is protected and can breathe safely. You can now enjoy a clean environment indoors while monitoring it fully and in real time. So let's all take one long, deep breath and remember, the quality of the air you and your family breathe can be better. It's in your hands, and it's that simple.
All right, so on to Breezometer, which actually measures outdoor air quality. So this is also a product that we talked about before. It's a free app. You can download it from the App Store. It was developed at Ben Gurion University. As I mentioned, it measures outdoor air pollution. Google actually acquired this company for an undisclosed amount. They're going to integrate it into their existing apps. They're planning to integrate it into Environmental Insights Explorer, Google Earth, and AirView. It was estimated that they bought it in the low hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, interestingly enough, Aura Air actually uses Breezometer to report on the outside air quality. So that's actually how they do their outside air reporting. But this is now a part of Google. So EchoWave Power, this is actually the third time we've talked about EchoWave Power. We talked about them in our green technologies. We talked about them in our Ukrainian presentation. And now we've got a new update. So EchoWave Power is expanding. So they've proven the technology in their Gibraltar installation. They have an installation in Jaffa as well, and it was actually connected to Israel's electric grid. It's the first wave power generation electric grid. It's the first wave power installation in the world to be connected to an electric grid. The Port of Los Angeles is now moving forward with a pilot, and New Jersey is in the process of passing a bill to include wave energy in the state's master energy plan. They also have new installations on order for Mallorca, Spain, and Halki Island, Greece. And this is a public company. They're not making any money right now, though. So just thought I'd point that out. And here's a video that gives you more on what they're doing.
The perfect wave, the dream of every surfer. But did you know that waves can also generate electricity? Yair Rudik is also looking for the perfect waves, not as a surfer, but as a director of business development for the Swedish-Israeli startup EcoWave Power.
we're a wave energy developer, and we've developed proprietary technology for the extraction of wave energy. So we produce 100% clean electricity from ocean and sea wave.
The idea is not new. Already in 1890, the first patents on wave energy were granted. After a short hype phase during the oil crisis in the 70s, the interest in the production of wave energy has increased strongly again in the last few years.
So wave energy is a new form of renewable energy that has not been commercialized yet. So before that, a lot of the wave energy field, they saw the huge theoretical wave energy potential, which is located offshore. I mean, according to estimates, we can actually produce twice the potential electricity the world produces today from our oceans and seas. The thing is, none of these systems were really cost effective, they weren't reliable, and they were also had a negative environmental impact.
Offshore wave farms pose a threat to many marine life, partly due to the risk of marine mammals and fish being struck by tidal turbine blades, or the effects of electromagnetic fields and underwater noise emitted from operating marine energy devices. Besides that, wave farms can result in the displacement of commercial fishermen from productive fishing grounds, can change the pattern of beach sand nourishment, and may represent hazards to safe navigation. The startup EcoWave Power avoids many of these problems by building its plants not offshore, but on the coast.
So in contrast to the majority of the wave energy field, who actually developed their systems offshore, our system is actually located near the shore. The majority of our system, about 90% of the cost, is actually based on land, just like a regular power station. And we utilize very unique floater shapes, which we install on pre-existing marine structures, things like piers, breakwaters, and jetties. And actually, the floaters sit on the external side of these structures, and we're able to use the motion of the floaters with the wave to create clean electricity. And by using existing infrastructure, our system is actually quite competitive with both solar and wind. And in a lot of locations around the world, we can actually have higher capacity factors than both of those systems, because we're able to actually generate at night. Very wavy locations, we can generate almost around the clock. So it is quite competitive. And right now, actually, our company is operating the only grid-connected wave energy array in the world, and we hope to be expanding and scaling up our technology worldwide.
Whatever generates energy, electricity.
As a comparison, the power density of photovoltaic panels is 1 kilowatt per meter squared at peak solar installation, and the power density of the wind is 1 kilowatt per meter squared at 12 meters per second. Whereas the average annual power density of the waves at, for example, San Francisco coast is 25 kilowatts per meter squared. The search for the perfect wave could take on a whole new meaning thanks to startups like EcoWave Power.
So you can see the potential there for 25 times the amount of electricity generated by the wave power solution versus solar or wind. So it'll be interesting. I think this solution is going to grow quite rapidly.
So Eric, can I interrupt for 1 second? Judy, did you have a question?
No.
Nope. All right, just checking.
No, sorry.
Okay.
No, okay, just checking.
All right. Okay, so Electreon Smart Roads. This is another technology that we talked about in the past. This is a company that implements charging infrastructure within a road. So vehicles are actually charged while they're driving. And what that does is it eliminates range worries. It also reduces the size of the battery, which will inevitably reduce the cost of an electric vehicle. It's being tested in Germany, Italy, Sweden, and the United States. In the United States, Detroit, New York, and Las Vegas are all implementing pilots. And this video will actually show you how they actually put this together and how it works. Okay, so now we're on to some new technologies. So for those of you who have receding gums like me, this is a new technology that might reverse that process. So it's called BioChange Regum, and it's a tissue regenerating technology. And what they do is they implement a scaffolding that your gums will actually grow onto. So they've actually tested it on 9 dogs, and all of the dogs regenerated both gum and bone tissue, and there were no adverse effects. And if we look at this video here, we'll actually see how this technology works. And actually, it's not just for gums; it's for all kinds of tissue.
Imagine a world where we live significantly longer. We can slow the biological clock of tissues, even repair and reverse aging. BioChange has developed a technology that can make us grow younger, grow young tissue in the body of an aging person. In our tissues, there is a mechanical network or scaffold built predominantly from collagen that holds the cells together. Aging, disease, or trauma cause the scaffold to weaken and break. This is a one-way biological path with no possibility for reversal until now. Our cell foam technology creates a foam for living cells. It is a scaffold that mimics the natural architecture of tissue and stimulates repair. When injected into the aging tissue, the cells feel its presence, just as if it was a younger version of the natural cell. The cells respond by rebuilding the tissue and regenerating it. This new healthy tissue will remain lively for the long term. Our leading product is for skin repair and is intended for the aesthetics, dermatological, and reconstructive surgery markets. We are working hard to biochange the future of aging. The age of aging well is coming.
Hurry, hurry.
Yeah, probably, maybe not for us. All right, so let's talk about some new COVID antibodies. So 2 new antivirus antibodies were discovered at Tel Aviv University. They were discovered by Dr. Natalie Freund, who's pictured here, working with 2 of her grad students. And what they have found is these antivirus antibodies are effective against all strains of COVID, and they actually may eliminate the need for future booster shots. And the research has been peer reviewed. Now, of course, testing new medical solutions is usually many years, takes many years of effort. If it's an existing medication, they can usually get it approved in 3 years. If it's a new medication, it takes about 10 years. So, but this is a good sign for the future. I don't know about you folks, but I know some people, in fact, that I have a neighbor right now that actually has a glioblastoma tumor. And for the most part today, if you get one of these tumors, you only have a 5% survival rate. Well, turns out researchers at Tel Aviv University, again, Tel Aviv University, have discovered how to kill glioblastoma tumors. So today, it's a deadly cancer and there is no known cure. What they found was there are 2 critical mechanisms in the brain that actually support tumors. One protects the cancer cells from the immune system, and the other actually provides energy to fuel the tumor's growth. Both of them are controlled by what are called astrocytes. So what these researchers were able to do is they were able to shut down the astrocytes in animals that had brain tumors. And what happened was the brain tumors literally starved to death and they disappeared. Every single animal that they tested this on survived. So now again, this is a case where they now have to test medications to see which ones, if there are any existing medications that will shut down the astrocytes, and if not, they'll have to develop a new medication. If they find an existing medication, they might have a solution in 3 years. If they have to create a new one, it could be 10 years. And this video will explain it in more detail as to their research and how it works.
Glioblastoma is among the most deadliest brain cancers. In our lab, we try to understand the mechanism that helps the tumor survive and grow within the brain. What we found is a specific cell type within the brain called astrocytes, because they look like stars, play a major role in the tumor ability to grow. And when we manipulate those astrocytes, then we can induce a regression in tumor growth, and in some cases, even completely cure the tumor. In our research, we try to combine between two different components: models, cells that harvested from human tumors, and patient data. And we try to merge all three to obtain a better understanding of how astrocytes control tumor growth. We found that they do it by two main mechanisms. The first one, they reactivate the immune system and direct it to attack the tumor. The second one, they feed the tumor with energy. And if you manipulate the astrocytes and stop one of those pathways, then the tumor dies. We identify a new mechanism by which tumor progress in the brain. Those mechanisms can now be used to develop new drugs and new therapeutics to target the tumor. We believe those findings are groundbreaking in our ability to fight deadly brain tumors such as glioblastoma and even other brain tumors.
So we've talked about a solution for cancer. Here's a new way of detecting cancer. So the company is called Spot It Early, and they're actually using dogs to detect cancer. So dogs have a superior sense of smell, and when they combine that with artificial intelligence, they're able to have a 95% success rate in determining if a patient has cancer. So what happens is a patient has to breathe into a mask for 5 minutes, and the mask is then sent to a screening center where Labradors actually sniff the sample. The artificial intelligence determines if cancer is present based on the dog's reaction when the dog sniffs the sample. If it's a positive result, the patient is referred to a medical center for more testing. And right now, they're able to detect breast, lung, colon, and prostate cancer. And the testing is being done at 2 Israeli hospitals. Somebody asked, why don't we just come out with an AI solution, artificial intelligence, rather than using the animals? Well, the AI solution was only 85% accurate. This solution is 95% accurate. So here's another cancer breakthrough. So today, when you go, if you have cancer, you go for chemo, it's usually based on a trial and error process. They give you a cocktail of chemo drugs. If it doesn't work, they modify it and give you a different cocktail until they find out one that works. This company is called OncoHost. And what they're doing is they're actually testing your blood and looking at proteins within your blood. And based on the analysis of those proteins, they can actually determine ahead of time which drugs will work on the cancer and which drugs won't work. So now, instead of trial and error, you know that when they give you the medicine, it's actually going to help cure the cancer. And here's a video on how this works.
Introducing a new dimension to cancer care. Cancer care made momentous progress in recent years. Today, understanding why immunotherapy helps some patients, but not others, remains a critical challenge. Anti-cancer treatment affects both the tumor and the patient's body. The host response, the body's reaction to the treatment, is key in determining the patient's response. These treatment-induced effects potentially can facilitate tumor growth and spread, counteracting the beneficial effects of therapy, creating a paradox in which the desired therapeutic effect is negated by its own side effect on the host. What if we could untangle this paradox and enable accurate, predictable, personalized care? OncoHost introduces Prophet, the first host response profiling platform. Based on a simple blood test, Profit analyzes the host response to predict the patient's response to treatment and potential treatment strategies to overcome treatment resistance. Personalized, cost-effective care while maximizing clinical benefit and reducing unnecessary side effects. What if we could decipher a patient's response to cancer treatment? Well, now we can.
All right, let's move on to away from medical and onto some green technologies. So what you're seeing here is a Israeli designed electric plane. The company is called Aviation Aircraft, and they're actually headquartered in Washington State. Of course, that's where Boeing is, so not surprising that they're there. The company began in Tel Aviv, and the aircraft is called Alice. It holds 9 passengers, and it cruises at a speed of 300 miles an hour, and it has a range of 650 miles. So they recently completed a successful 8-minute test flight on September 27th, and they already have over 100 orders for these planes, including Cape Air and DHL. So, you know, Cape Air flies up in Cape Cod, and it turns out they also have some flights down in the Caribbean. So maybe one of these days we'll be flying in one of these planes. And here's a video that will show you the actual test flight that they took. So there you go. Electric planes are just around the corner. So Zoo's Power, you know, we talked about electric roads or wireless charging on electric roads. Zoo's Power is a solution developed that can charge cars in 15 minutes. So now this is actually competitive with gassing up your gas-powered cars. But specifically, this is designed for areas that have poor electric grids. So with a poor electric grid, you normally couldn't pump that amount of energy into a car. So what they do is they use large flywheels, and those flywheels create kinetic energy. So they're spinning inside this Zoo's device. And then when the car plugs in, the kinetic energy is then converted back into electricity and goes into the car. There are pilots being installed in Germany, Israel, and the US. The US installation is actually being done in Miami. So again, let's take a look at this video and we'll see how Zoo's Power works.
This is a pivotal moment in our planet's history. Transition to electric vehicles is critical in building a more sustainable planet. In order to truly embrace the transition to EVs, we need to accelerate fast rollout of an ultra-fast charging infrastructure without compromising on business growth or sustainability. But the current fast charging infrastructure's dependence on the existing grid and its development limitations simply can't meet the necessary pace and demand. Zoo's enables ultra-green, ultra-fast electric vehicle charging anywhere. With its flywheel-based kinetic power boosting solution, you can accelerate the rollout of ultra-fast charging stations while avoiding or deferring costly and complex grid infrastructure upgrades. Robust, safe, and sustainable by design, Zeus offers minimal carbon footprint, high longevity, and minimal maintenance with unprecedented charge cycles over more than 15-year lifespan, thus providing a cost-effective solution with lowest total cost of ownership. All of that as opposed to polluting costly solutions based on chemical batteries, which degrade rapidly and require frequent replacements. It's good for your business and it's good for our planet. Now you can lead the EV revolution and meet ever-growing demand, powering tomorrow's e-mobility, today, anywhere, for good. Zeus.
So if you have an electric car and you're in Miami, you might want to try charging at the station that they set this up at. Okay, so so electricity isn't, is one way of dealing with green energy, but another one is hydrogen. Hydrogen actually is a non-polluting energy source, and when it's burned, it actually produces water. Boson energy actually converts trash to hydrogen. And so this company is based in Israel, Poland, and Sweden. Of course, the technology was developed in Israel. It's designed for urban environments. And basically each ton of trash that's processed will replace 5.5 barrels of oil. In addition to that, it's also removing 1 ton of CO2 from the atmosphere for each ton of trash that it processes, which is why it's ideal for cities. So it cleans the air and cuts down on oil consumption. And you'll see in this video that the way it's designed where all of the infrastructure for this solution is actually built underground. All right, over to agriculture, fruit picking drones. Tevel Aerobotics Technologies, they've developed a drone that actually picks ripe fruit. So today, farmers lose $30 billion a year from rotten fruit. Not only that, but if a ripe fruit is picked 2 weeks late, it loses 80% of its value. And today, 10% of the fruit grown can't even be harvested. They just don't have the people to do it. So these units, these flying drones, they don't need to be charged. As you can see in this picture here, they're actually tethered to the machine. It was actually tested in Italy. And what they found was the fruit that the drone picked was equal to or actually better than the fruit that the humans picked. There are 20 installations today, including the US. So some of those installations are in California, and they're going to be expanding to Washington State soon. And this video will show you the test that they did in Italy and how these drones actually worked.
I'm Marco Rivoira. I'm the CEO of the Rivoira Giovanni e Figli. Our business started in 1950. We are exporting mainly the fruit worldwide. Picking fruit is quite a difficult job. With the increasing production, it's very, very difficult to find enough good people because you have to train the pickers and you have to let the pickers improve day by day in order to reach the quality. We have been trying a lot of different systems during these past years, and with Tevel, the facility of the system and the specific algorithms can allow to be very precise. You detect the color with the algorithms, you program the weight of the fruit you want to pick, you can identify the quality of the trees, and you can select automatically by the robot, which is the right quality and right period to pick an apple. We were very happy, extremely happy about the results because when the flying robot pick the fruit, is very gentle. It can move and can avoid bruises, and the fruit quality we can reach into the beans, and all the information we have about every single piece of fruit picked is very, very important because it allows us to prevent any problematics directly in the orchard instead of doing everything here in the packing station. Another fantastic things about the system is that you can harvest during the night or all night long. It doesn't matter if there is a sun or it's night time. Plan is absolutely to continue the collaboration with Tevel. We want to be the first in Europe to use this technology. We believe that this technology is going to be the future. And for sure, from the next season, we will start the program with them to harvest also some other kind of fruit, not just apples, so like peaches, nectarine, plums, whatever is going to be available. Because this technology is not a technology specifically made for apples, it's for any kind of fruit.
All right, on to scallops. From apples to scallops, which of course aren't kosher. So Mermaid Seafood is growing cultivated scallops. Mermaid Seafood is an Israeli company. The process that they use is less costly. The scallops that they actually produce are of higher quality than those that are harvested naturally. And what they do is they take cells from high quality shells, and then they use those cells to create new scallops. And it's an interesting process because they take those cells and they as those cells produce waste, they use that waste to generate the food for the scallops, which turns out to be seaweed. So that waste fertilizes the seaweed, and then the seaweed feeds the cells. So it's a closed loop system with no waste. The scallop market is estimated to be $8 billion worldwide and $600 million in the US alone. It's probably much smaller at CBI. Recently, they completed a $3.3 million funding round, and this was actually oversubscribed. In other words, they got more money than they asked for. And over time, they're going to expand into other seafood. The person that you see here, Daniel Einhorn, he's the CEO and the founder, and he's talking about no waste, no water loss, and how they reduce the costs substantially using this method. This was actually a snapshot of about a 45-minute video. I wasn't able to find a video that would have fit this presentation format. So anyways, that's not kosher scallops. So this is going to be our last slide in the presentation, and I'm gonna, before I end, I'm gonna read to you some stuff about this. So saving souls in Fort Myers. United Hatzalah sent a psychodrama team to Fort Myers. So this was a 7-person team. They left Israel on October 1st. So they actually left before the hurricane even hit. Once the hurricane hit and they're doing their jobs, they're specifically looking for people who are especially lost, helpless, anxious, or isolated. Their intervention, this is not a counseling session. Their intervention takes about 15 minutes. And to understand it, I'm gonna read to you about Paul. He was a person who lost everything in the hurricane. So I'm gonna stop the share because I can't, let me see, I need to get my cursor going. There we go. Okay, oh, now I could probably see it. Hold on. Okay, so when Dr. Sharon Slater spotted Paul in a Red Cross shelter in Fort Myers, Florida, the 45-year-old chef was standing between two beds, looking very agitated. She approached him gently, introduced herself as a clinical psychologist from Israel's United Hatzalah Psychodrama and Crisis Response Unit. And she asked him if she could speak to him. Paul told Slater that he and his wife had sold everything and moved to Fort Myers from Missouri 2 weeks prior to the hurricane. Now the house in which they invested all their money was demolished. A small plastic bag held everything he owned. He kept repeating, "I lost everything. I couldn't save anything." He had no job, no home, no possessions, Slater said. This was the kind of intense personal crisis that Slater and her teammates from Israel are trained to alleviate with short but effective interventions. They were talking about the 500-year, once in 500-year hurricane. So my experience in assisting after the building collapse in Surfside in June of 2021 taught me that even though Americans are quite capable of handling disasters on their own, our trauma team brings different techniques, some of which were created in Israel on the basis of need, and we have something to add. So welcomed once again by the Florida Red Cross volunteers, Slater and a handful of other Israeli psychologists and social workers on her team combed 2 shelters looking for people who appeared especially lost, helpless, anxious, or isolated. We do not do therapy. We do a quick intervention, maybe 15 minutes per person. And the Israeli counselors always ask permission to approach. There is so little in their control, this gives them the opportunity to control whether or not they want to interact with us. When Paul indicated his assent and repeated his mantra, Slater pointed to one of the beds he was standing between and asked Paul, "Who sleeps in this bed?" "My wife," he replied, and then repeated, "But I couldn't save anything." Slater asked again, "Who sleeps in this bed?" And then Paul understood he had indeed saved something, the woman most important to him. With that realization, his tears began to flow. When he composed himself, Slater asked what was overwhelming him was that he gave her a list of major concerns. She advised him to choose the most urgent problem and focus on first, to the exclusion of all the others. Paul decided that his priority was to find a home to rent. Slater said, "Just focus on that for now, and after that, you can worry about finding a job." When those intrusive thoughts come in about a job and possessions, refocus on one thing instead of 10 things. Immediately, she saw the tension leave his face and body. Paul thanked her, and she moved on. And that's today's presentation. So if you go to that link, here, I'll put that link in the website, that link on the last slide, you can actually read the whole story. It talks about some other interventions that they did in Fort Myers that are also very, very interesting. So let me just copy it. Let me get it into chat. There you go. That was the link for the Fort Myers article. So any questions, any comments, thoughts?
It's just incredible.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. So everybody liked it?
You selling the stock?
Wave, if you want to buy Wave, they are listed on the stock exchange. I am looking at them, but I haven't bought the stock yet. So like I said, they don't make any money. So it typically a company that doesn't make any money that's in that business is usually for younger investors that have a long time horizon and the wherewithal to sustain big losses as well as big gains. So no, I'm not recommending any stock.
As always, Eric, it was one. It's just I don't even know how to express it. I mean, there's so much that Israel does that I can't believe it all.
There is, and if you go to the A-Team site, by the way, believe it or not, that's where I got all this information. So the previous presentations, I had to go to different sources because the A-Team site wasn't quite populated as much as it is now. But for this particular presentation, everything came from the A-Team site. So, but of course, if you go to the A-Team site and you come to the next presentation, you might already know everything.
But then you know what to ask. You can
That's true.
Ask more questions.
That's right. And the other thing is, I don't, certainly what was here was just a small subset of what's up on the A-Team site. There's a lot more stuff. I have to pick and choose as to what I want to present. The actual, I literally changed that last story out yesterday because I had a different story about there was a Ukrainian girl that was having massive seizures, and the doctors in Ukraine couldn't help her, so they flew her to trying to remember the hospital. It's the biggest, the best hospital in Israel. They flew her to the hospital and they analyzed her, found out she had an illness, and the treatment that they gave her actually exasperated it. When she arrived in Israel, she had a 1% chance of survival. She was that bad. But 3 months later, she was walking over to rehab.
I saw that story as well.
Yeah. That's
Eric,
also on the A-Team site.
Are you saying that if we study the A-Team site, that we can sort of, maybe there's some particular stories that if people study the A-Team site that you could focus on in January?
Maybe. I mean, the videos don't come, most of the videos don't come from the A-Team site. So those I usually, for each of these stories, I go hunting around to see if I can find a short video that encapsulates the technology. And as you can see, there's not one for all of them, but so those usually take the most time trying to track those down.
Well, if this is the first one you've ever seen, I just want to say that Eric puts in a ton of effort, and they're always well presented and interesting. So
yes.
So I'm glad you enjoyed them.
Stop the recording.
Yep.
So Eric, if